Alright, apparently Hannibal Barker. Need a new band-aid. Hang out. Anyway, Hannibal. Wants to go another round here. So he made a video response to Gray Tao Cho guy, which is an interesting thing to do, but yeah, I mean the Gray guy doesn't actually make videos, but it's okay. So he didn't show himself again. I guess he's going to do this hide thing. Hypocrisy, the practice of professing beliefs, feelings, or virtues of one, and then it disappeared.
The reason that I thought that it would be helpful to tell you, Gray Tao Cho, about the definition therein of hypocrisy is so that you try to understand why I'm going to be taking you to task in this video about it. See, in order for me to be a hypocrite, I would have had to have professed a belief and then not held it myself, of which I did nothing.
Yeah, you did. Look, you've defended taxing people to change their behavior. You've defended it as a method of getting people over their addiction, their preference, their vice. So the simple argument is why are these other vices immune to such treatment, and why is this one particular vice not immune to this sensible, beat the crap out of poor people, take away their liberty to elevate human behavior. That's what we should do. That should be the approach. Wipe out the liberty for poor people, make it only accessible to the rich, to force people to behave in a manner that you think is correct. Right? That's what you're defending. That's the argument on the table. You got some other argument? Well, let's hear it. I don't think you do.
I pointed to the fact that Gary is supposed to be in favor of the lack of suffering and to reduce suffering, and yet has a habit that contributes enormously to suffering in the world, including global climate change.
Okay, so you're saying tobacco is doing all that. First off, I'm not for the future being addicted to tobacco, so let's understand the context. You're defending animal production, consumption, and exploitation. I'm not defending tobacco as something any child should be addicted to. In most cases, people don't pick up smoking later in life, so that's just a trend. It's just a 90% scenario. So tobacco will die out if you don't addict people early. So I'm not for any vice, including tobacco. The argument is, should one vice be treated horrifically and all the rest of the vices be left alone? That's 800%, 30%. It's inequitable distribution of a penalty. I've never claimed to be vice-free. I've never said it's like Greatex makes some comment all the time, like I'm a criminal because I'm a hypocrite because I'll walk in the woods and step on bugs. I'm conceding life is impossible to live without harming things. I'm saying we should just reduce the harm as much as we can. I'm claiming that nicotine is proven factually to be the most addictive chemical in the human psychology, and it is ludicrous to think that you're going to fix that problem by extorting money. And it's not just ludicrous, it's cruel, it's stupid, it's just nasty, it's unethical, and it's hypocritical for vicers like yourself to say that vice deserves bad treatment and your vices don't. So you may drink and eat and destroy your health and cost society money, and nobody's allowed to say, no, let's tax them 800%, let's tax them $3,000 worth, and it's just a gross hypocrisy on its face. So stay on the subject. How about a pile of shit?
The use of pesticides and herbicides, dangerous chemicals, deforestation associated with feeding tobacco kilns. Therefore, he is a hypocrite. And he doesn't care about suffering. If he did, he wouldn't be engaging in that kind of behavior. But he just chalks it down to the fact that we're all programmed to be addicts instead of the fact that he's just a hypocritical asshole.
Right. Okay, so you're just going to deny the syndrome of addiction and claim that I have hypocrisy because I merely state that, when I was 11 years old, I got addicted to nicotine. I've smoked ever since. I don't advocate that any other young person ever smoked cigarettes. I have actually stated that any adult caught selling cigarettes to a minor should be killed. Yeah, it should be a federal offense, a really big offense. So yeah, but no, I'm supposed to. If I'm not Gandhi, I can't be a social advocate. I can't, and I certainly am. I have to be Gandhi to be able to complain about a grotesque hypocrisy in the American law. You know, this is your standard, and I'm supposed to say anything else. But what, are you fucking insanely stupid? Yes, you are.
I held no such position, so therefore I cannot be a hypocrite. I'm fine with people eating meat. We simply, myself and Cardinal Virtue simply said we...
No. This, again, I'm fine with eating meat. No, the subject is 800% tax versus 30% tax, and does that have anything to do with the United States Constitution, or anything to do with equitable treatment, or fairness, or does it have everything to do with a bunch of majority fat fucks just exploiting people because they can? Period. You're just bigots. Plain and simple. You're not only hypocrites, you're fucking bigots.
Didn't give a shit about tax on meat. That's fine. If someone seeks to tax, they can do so. It's in the...
Oh, if somebody seeks to tax, they can do so. So you're going to give me this, I think, preposterous argument that if I chose to tax you 800%, if I chose to tax you $3,000 if you didn't lose weight every year, that somehow you think that's consistent with how the Constitution and the tax code should be used. That poor people should be denied the liberty of being fat, and only rich people should have the right to be fat. If you can't afford a $3,000 tax, you can't afford to have the liberty. You think that's rational, United States, consistent with the United States Constitution policy, that's what the tax code is intended to do. It's not to equitably distribute the burden of financing our country. No, it's supposed to be used as some sort of penalty for being a minority and being poor. That's what the tax code should do. It should be able to just beat the shit out of the poor and provide luxury vice for the rich. Yeah, fuck you. Fuck you. You retard. Oh, wrong spacebar.
The purview of the United States legislature and other legislatures. That doesn't mean that we were advocating stopping. In fact, we weren't. As I said before, I don't eat McDonald's because I particularly like it, but it's cheap. And when you have to have $1,500 to get you through till August, you got to be careful about what you're buying. Yes, I know.
Oh, I mean, this is incredibly hypocritical. You don't care about the $3,000 you're stealing from some working man making $10 an hour. 25% of his income you're stealing from him for having a vice. And yet you'll sit there and justify your consumption, your torture, your abuse of other sentient creatures for your mere luxury. I mean, it is just absolute nonsense. This is just... I'm sorry. It's just too stupid. You're too stupid to make videos. You're just too stupid. It should be declared. This guy's too stupid. His videos ought to be marked too stupid, flagged too stupid, too stupid.
Imagine that, a budget. And since the government has cut my funding in terms of education, it puts me in an even worse position. Now, since I don't advocate the ending of eating meat or anything like this, I don't believe that it's ethical to be a vegetarian in any more or less way than it is to be ethical of anything.
Well, amazing. So I do claim that it's unethical to waste farm resources and to exploit people for a stupid vice. You, on the other hand, don't claim it's a stupid vice. You claim somehow it's in some eternal right, some fundamental right to cage, abuse, exploit animals. No, there's no such right, and there's no such claim of addiction or need, because, yes, billions of people every year manage to live eating a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of meat. So, yeah, this is all just a big fat... This is what's called hypocrisy, fatty. You can't be more of a fucking motherfucking cunt hypocrite, an ignorant, stupid, malicious, evil hypocrite.
Else, because ethics in and of themselves are rather personal things. They're subjective things. They are not universal things, and they're...
I mean, amazing. It's not universal. So the idea of fairness isn't universal. Somehow they figured out how to play cribbage and soccer and all these games, and they don't. But we don't have any universal understanding of fairness. Fairness could be that, yeah, you take a gun to the game and just shoot the guy, right? And then you score the goal and you win. You just shoot the goalie, you score the goal, you win, and you haven't violated any ethics. I mean, it's just idiotic. Just fucking idiotic.
There's no big electron in the sky watching me telling me that my behavior will get me anywhere. In fact, often if you act ethically, you receive a lot of negative consequences. In other words, no good deed goes unpunished. So, since I did not advocate any position to which you can claim that I'm being a hypocrite, you can't claim that I'm being a hypocrite. I'm fine with people eating meat. I'm fine with subsidies to certain areas of agriculture, although I would prefer them going to places
like this makes any kind of sense at all. The hypocrisy, the subject, you're just ignoring, you're pretending doesn't exist. The context of this whole discussion is an 800% versus a 30% tax on vice. Okay, there's no tax on the food vice, so it's an 800% versus no tax. Actual federal subsidies to the production of meat. So this is the obscenity here: is that we're not only are we not taxing the production of this bad for your health overindulgence that you commit, where you're claiming some right to tax extraordinarily burdensome the other vice. So your argument's even weaker on the food subject versus the alcohol subject. But both subjects are impossible to defend relative to the treatment of cigarette smokers.
Or we could actually reduce the price of other food that is more healthy. As I said, I don't eat McDonald's because I particularly like it. I eat it because, one, I'm on the road for 60 miles every day. It totals up to about an hour and a half of travel time that I spend getting to and from class. I don't always have time or money to stop and eat someplace healthy. Subway.
Yeah, we don't care that other people don't have any money because you stole it from them because they had a vice. Now, why can't I steal? You're saying it's okay. Well, that's the argument, right? So it just means as soon as we get a 51% majority, we tax the fuck out of you. You are not going to complain. That's your argument, right? You're just going to say, okay, yeah, it's perfectly fair, perfectly reasonable. So we'll take it. When we run this show, we can just tax you out of existence. We can tax you the fuck out of your liberty to be a pig and a drunk. Fine. I don't think. I think that hypocrisy everybody knows exists. I think this fat fuck would be whining all over the place about his rights. What a fucking hypocrite.
It is much better than McDonald's. The problem is that it's more expensive, and I have to watch what I'm doing.
Yeah, some excuse for being a big fat pig.
Afford it.
Well, guess what?
Now...
Yeah, you buy a bag of rice, right? 10 pounds, 30 pounds of rice for $10. Wow. Gee, you can't afford that? Yeah, I think you can. I think you can make food ahead of time. I think you know how to pop popcorn, right? Well, it's really good for you fatties. You eat popcorn, it goes through you kind of fast, speeds up your metabolism, yeah, you lose weight. Really simple. Not hard to do.
Besides that, as I said, to me there is no ethical stance on vegetarianism that makes you morally or superior to anyone else. In fact, in many cases, most vegetarians are not morally superior.
Well, whatever. That's like saying if it doesn't make you morally superior if you're not a rapist. I mean, it's just on its face absolutely ludicrous. Just absolutely ludicrous to sit there and say that you're basically saying there's no morally superior position. So if you lie, cheat, steal, thieve, any kind of criminal activity, somehow the person who doesn't commit those activities is not morally superior. It's just, on its face, absolutely ludicrous. You put animals in jeopardy, you're automatically, ethically, in an inferior position.
Other people, they're simply a bunch of sanctimonious assholes. Use Exhibit A. So... I didn't take a stance on vegetarianism as being preferable to eating meat, because to me they are irrelevant. You do not get brownie points for not eating animals. However, you also
Yeah, well, whatever. So I could just say the same thing about anything then. If we could just make up truths, and I could say, okay, you don't get brownie points for not killing and eating fat people. All right? I mean, you could just there's no end to that kind of nonsense. So yeah, just play this nihilist idiot game that somehow there's no reason for anybody to object to anything, and especially they can't make the argument from harm. And yet you've just sat here and bloated a whole bunch of crap about the poor people in Africa or the poor people in some other country, or somehow they're degraded in some way. Who says they're degraded in some way? Why the fuck should I care? Explain to me why they are more important than the animals you torture. Just explain it. You got some sort of great explanation for why they're more important and why you can walk around thinking you're morally superior because you can pull their card out for them and say, look how their life is harmed by tobacco plants. Who the fuck cares? Who are they? What are they? Why do they matter? I mean, you can't do this. You can't disqualify the fundamental function of our humanity, which makes us matter, which is exactly the same qualifying function that's taking place in these sentient creatures you're fucking exploiting. The sentience, you idiots. It's their welfare state, the existence of their capacity to be harmed makes them relevant. And you're just saying, when I don't care to make it relevant, I'll avoid it. And when it's to my advantage, I'll use it. Another hypocrisy. So when it's to your advantage in an argument to pretend it matters somehow that something is hurt or harmed, you'll use it, and then when it's to your advantage to escape accountability, you'll just say harm doesn't matter. I mean, it's just obvious what you're doing here. Your hypocrisy is grotesque.
Get negative brownie points for encouraging someone to engage in some sort of behavior which is contrary to your own beliefs, in this case, ethylism, and suffering and things of this nature. Now, you pointed to the big...
It's just a philosophy, shithead. You either recognize and accept the logic, or you don't. Okay? But the point of ethylism has nothing to do with degrading or taking away anything from your life, but some sort of notion or claim that you have a right to play God, to create life, to put it at jeopardy, to roll dice with its welfare, to draw straws for it. That's the argument, shithead. Explain how people don't have a right to critique the lack of qualifications people possess to conduct such behavior, because they were never qualified. They never earned the right to do it, okay? The hardware was just installed, all right, and nobody passed a test to use its function.
Problems in society of being drugs, rape, and capitalism. Let's handle...
Why should I care about any of that stuff? You've just said there are no ethical standards. There are no values. So why should any of this be... Why should this appeal of yours for the poor, the economy, or anything? Why should I give a fuck about any of it? Why should any of it... You've stated it doesn't matter. You fucking retard. Jeez.
Now, on one point. Drugs also cause the same problems. The deforestation that takes place where they grow drugs, things of this nature, so that's deleterious to the environment. Illegal pot operations also do the same thing. They spew all kinds of dangerous chemicals into the environment, California and other places. So it's not really the illegality of it, it's the growing process of it that causes it to deforest and cause harm.
Well, whatever. I mean, these arguments, again, the scale of the cost of and the animal exploitation costs are this is a preposterous comparison. By comparison, there is no human vice of greater environmental detriment than the farming of biological mass. The methane, all the greenhouse gases, the amount of fuel that they consume to produce their calories, on no measure is this nonsensical argument you're making valid. By every measure, the expense of beef production and meat production is an environmental catastrophe by comparison to anything like drugs or tobacco. It's just a silly comparison. It's a 1 compared to 100.
So the simple demand for drugs in and of themselves helps to destroy the environment, the same as tobacco. Rape. Okay, I hate to tell you this, but if you look at a woman and say, oh my God, she is hot, that's not rape, you asshole.
Creepy.
You guys think everything is rape. And then the real rape gets ignored. You fucking chowderhead. So, no, that's not part of this. We're talking about something completely different.
This isn't even a rational argument. But again, why should rape matter? You can't prove that it's bad for women to be raped. You have no evidence of that. What's the ethical crime? I mean, there's no evidence that women feel any and can be harmed any more than there's evidence that an animal can be feel. You can't make the argument that somehow the human, without making a religious argument, what? Because it has a few extra chromosomes, that somehow it does something that the other animals don't do? You're going to tell me that a fully grown gorilla is less of an organism than a 2-year-old human? I mean, come on. I mean, it's a ludicrous statement, but even so, you're saying that they can all be negated. You can't play nihilist as to your choice. You're just being grotesquely hypocritical. You're saying nihilism wins when I want to make an argument to my advantage, and then nihilism will just ignore that when I want to claim that somehow rape is harm. Yeah, whatever. You're a fucking idiot. You're too stupid for me to even make a response to
Capitalism. Is capitalism really the problem? Or is it the fact that abuse of capitalism is the problem?
Yeah.
Or the fact that capitalism in and of itself, as a system,
abuse of
is
capitalism.
irrelevant. That if you want to have a so-called just society, you're going to have a mixture of all kinds of different philosophies involved in it, be it capitalism, socialism, communism, doesn't matter. You mix it up, you might be able to get something out of it that is a workable economy. I do not think capitalism in and of itself is an evil. I think out-of-control capitalism and hyper-capitalism is something negative. But I do not believe capitalism of itself is negative. The people who are operating those systems are negative sometimes. Sometimes they're bad people. As bad as we can put the label on.
Why? How?
You're really talking about the people operating the system, not the system itself. The system itself, if you just took it and operated it, probably would work perfectly. But it would be dependent on a state and the human mind that has never existed. And that is having perfect information, perfect intentions, and perfect ethics, and perfect morality.
You just said none of that stuff exists. So, again, what is this hypocrisy of claiming the existence of any states of ethics when you claim there are no states of ethics? There are no ethics that can be stated. So if they can't be stated, if they can't be defined, then how could you possibly ever apply them? So again, this is just such fail.
It doesn't exist. So you have to deal with the reality of a system as opposed to its ideal. Once again, step 1 in Dokudo. Accept the world exactly as it is. Not a perfect version of the world, but the world as it is. Once again, I'm not advocating anything, so therefore I can't be a hypocrite. So let's move beyond that. Let's talk about now what you're claiming is so ethical. Vegetarianism. At present, modern agricultural practices are very destructive to the environment in the form of pesticides, herbicides that are used to protect the crops. Actually Dow Chemical is bringing back half of Agent Orange to use on their new pesticide-resistant crop, which is going to cause all kinds of health problems. The farmers exposed to these chemicals eventually get sick themselves, causing healthcare costs to rise. The food itself...
Okay, so you're making a food argument. Now, animals that you eat are fed food, okay? A lot of food. Food that's grown on farms, okay? They're fed high-quality food grown on farms. The world has to actually grow less food if you quit feeding the food to the animals you're eating. So if you stop eating animals, we'll have more food with less pesticides, you fucking retard.
Goes up in price by whatever supply and demand occurrence may occur, or where you're subsidizing one sector of the economy while not subsidizing another, perhaps a better sector of the economy, like ending the subsidies for corn and perhaps putting into something else that would be more appropriate, less destructive, bring down the price of the food and make it a little bit more available to the everyday person, you idiot.
I mean, this is idiotic, right? I mean, food is dirt fucking cheap, all right? I mean, even corn at its current prices is still dirt cheap as calories. So again, this is just a bullshit argument. I mean, wheat and rice and the rest of these are really great grains. High yield, high calorie, real value, okay? And the crap you're eating is the low value. The crap you're creating is the blight, okay? It is consuming 20 or 30 times the value it's producing.
You know, that kind of thing. Also, the nitrogen that's put on the fields, the runoff from the fields, which causes lots of bacterial outbreaks in local waterways, which kills fish, which in turn goes up the food chain. Not to mention...
So again, you just keep arguing as if the animal that you are producing for your cheap McDonald's are somehow not eating food. No, they're eating food, retard.
Other practices, like fracking and geological practices that create the contamination of well water, which also gets into the system, where you get arsenic, lithium, heavy metals like that. You get lead poisoning, mercury poisoning. All this is a result of modern agriculture and industrial practices. And you benefit from these things the same as anybody else. Now, since I do benefit from those things, and I'm not really advocating the end of those things, but rather their regulation and as much as possible to keep them clean, I haven't really taken a hypocritical stance on that matter. You, on the other hand, have. Do you have a cell phone? Then you've contributed to the deforestation and destruction in the Congo. Because coltan...
Oh, whatever. No, we know that what the number one cause of cutting down ancient rainforests in Africa is grazing land. So again, just keep lying, keep pretending that the real villain isn't the villain, and keep trying to exploit everybody else to your advantage with fake, claims, pleas to harms you say don't exist. We don't have any ethical obligations by your own definition, your own description.
And is used in cell phones. Coltan is a mineral harvested in the Congo Basin. It causes deforestation, runoff, poisoning, that kind of thing. So does gold. Mining for gold does, because they have to use arsenic to separate the gold out of the other detritus material. Tobacco is even worse because it...
Number one cause of deforestation is breaking the land down to create grazing space for meat animals.
Leaches the nutrients out of the soil at a much higher rate, and it's simply for smoking. The kilns that they use to cure the tobacco, they're usually fire-based kilns. You have to have some sort of burned raw fuel, especially in Africa where they're using it now, which usually means cutting down more forests, which contributes to more CO2 emissions, which contributes to global climate change, which could kill a lot of people. So if all of you were in favor of stuffing, you would be trying to curtail this. That includes stopping people from smoking. You're fine with trying to kill people who want to have children.
Okay, kill people who want to have children. I mean, this is a real rational argument. Again, no one's advocating for a future of tobacco smokers. The argument is that you don't get them addicted in the first place, but taxing them exploitatively is nonsensical, especially when you do it in some kind of regressive manner where you provide privilege for the rich and dismal lack of liberty for the poor. It's obscenely unconstitutional, you motherfucking cunt.
Gary has said this over and over again. He'll kill anybody in his system that has children, but you're not willing...
Well, again, okay, so that's your standard of integrity to the argument. The argument is that there's a tiny percentage of the human race that will not comply with the progressive downward trends or whatever. And yeah, so any system you have, violators of the law have to be treated in some way. So again, argue the end game circumstance, the circumstance like say if there was a a horrible virus has escaped, and the only way to save the human race is to annihilate the virus, and everybody has to have the vaccine, and if everybody doesn't take the vaccine, then the virus won't get killed, yeah, you'd have pretty draconian laws about people not getting vaccinated, and you know it. So, just cheat the argument, but that's all you can do. You're just a cheater.
To tell Gary, you're being a hypocrite here. Gary, you are smoking is causing these problems. Gary, you are inflicting suffering. How does that work, Great Tai Joe, or does your cognitive dissonance not allow you to think about that too hard? Well, you are an idiot. I mean, that's pretty clear. I think it's funny that a different Sky gets you to watch her videos.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, you shouldn't even know what the word idiot is. You're such a fucking idiot. It's a miracle that you even know that there's such a word, because you're almost too idiotic even to recognize the existence of idiot. You really, this is disgusting. It's a disgusting liar, manipulator, cheater, hypocrite, fat fuck, dickhead. That's all you are.
Yes, because you are the last person I would trust with interpreting information. You're a moron. I know you can't help it, but you are a moron. Regardless, you don't understand anything. So,
brilliant argument there.
The only hypocrite here is you and Gary, and the other cadre of miscreants that don't identify themselves as ethicists. Because you do nothing to help the society move away from these things. I am not advocating the end of meat industry altogether. I want to see factory farms basically brought under control for obvious reasons.
Well, then you might as well say that you're for the elimination of your cheap meat. So that's fine with me, too. So good. I'm glad you're against that. But don't be unrealistic enough to say that there's some sort of holistic way to farm. Because guess what? There really isn't. Not to produce the volume of meat you expect to have and the price for meat you expect to get. You're not going to get it cheap that way. And you're not going to still not going to fix the environmental problem.
But that doesn't mean that all slaughterhouses need to be put out of business. It doesn't mean that you can't have moderation in your system and recognize that you can do this. And recognize...
Yeah, why don't we just tax it? Again, the argument is the videos were... The subject of the videos is 800% tax versus no tax or 30% tax for majority vices. And is that constitutional or coherent or sensible or rational? Or is that just an expression of majority bigotry? And the clear evidence is it's just majority bigotry, and that's all you fuckers are, is bigots. There, enough. We're done.
That you can engage in practices that aren't that destructive. It's called moderation, though, you idiot. Something that you and your cadre of miscreants know nothing about. That's the point. And there's the hypocrisy. You are all a bunch of addicts, be it addicted to drama, be it addicted to cell phones or computers or the internet.
Look at this guy. Look at this fat fuck.
A lot of us don't have these vices.
You fat
As I said
fuck.
before, I don't eat that particularly because
fat
it's good.
fuck.
But it is cheap.
Fat
my
fuck.
go a lot faster.
Fat fuck. Fat fuck.
I know that's a foreign
fat
concept.
Fuck.
But try to stick
Fat
with this for a
fuck. Fat
now,
fuck. Fat fuck.
We already know Gary to be a
obscenely fat fuck.
Your buddies are
obese fat
You don't really
fuck.
care about suffering. It's all about you and you being inconvenient.
Whatever. Like I said. No, it's about the principle, and again, I'm not even paying the tax anymore, and I'm still going to fight for this freedom and this right, and I'm going to fight for the right of poor people to have the vices that rich people have. I think it's obscene, grotesque. It's just as obnoxious to America as you can get to create a system that denies people access to liberty based on money, fundamental liberties. Simple liberties. And the simple pleasures of smoking, although dangerous and unhealthy in the long term and to be discouraged, like the simple pleasures of drinking and like the simple pleasures of maybe eating too much food. These are all things that should not be denied people based on how much money they possess. That's bullshit. Absolute bullshit. Preposterous bullshit. Yeah. I mean, it's an unfortunate concession to circumstances that, you know, many people are able to have much better food, much healthier diets because they're rich. But we certainly, we can't fix all injustices, but some of them we don't need to create. And the fact is, this is a created injustice. And there's no excuse for that. This isn't overcoming something nature imposed or something intractable. This is an injustice of created by assholes, and that's all. Just plain assholes, and that's what you people are. You're assholes. Asshole, fucking bigoted, motherfucking creepy, motherfucking scum, and such. Still needs a little work. It should be over this.
It has nothing to do with anything else. You're not taking a moral stance or an ethical stance by being a vegetarian, because it actually is irrelevant, because you haven't stopped one death today. Did your not eating chicken stop one chicken from dying? No, the production goes on.
Well, that is another silly argument. So, yeah, there's only one slave owner stopped owning slaves. He didn't stop owning, there's still slavery. Well, so what? Everybody stops, and all of a sudden it doesn't exist anymore. One person stops buying a dog. Yeah, okay, it's only one person not buying a dog. It's not going to put all the puppy mills out of business. But guess what? If 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15, 20, 100 people do it, well, all of a sudden it does matter. So obviously, like everything else, 1 is the loneliest number. But that doesn't change the fact that everything starts, every movement, every bit of progress always starts with one person taking one step in that direction. And that's just the truth of it, moron. But you don't even get that, because you're too fucking stupid.
Oh my God, imagine that. You're doing something that actually has no appreciable effect on anything. Government policy would, though. Getting involved in the system would be something you could do. But that involves doing something, and you're not going to do that. You're going to complain on...
Right, that's why I filed lawsuits and went through all that hassle and trouble. Because for absolutely no reason, which must be conceded, because the system is so corrupt that you're not allowed to defend your rights and get a straight answer. And then when you do it, too, which, you get totally ripped off, and then assholes like you will stand up and sit there and defend that. And say that's what you were somehow entitled to, so just making yourself even more of a hypocrite. You claim that there's justice, and yet you don't prove there's justice, you don't demonstrate there's justice, you just claim that it exists somewhere, somehow. Yeah, well, that's just bogus. That's what that is. Oops, bogus. Bogus, gonna do a mistake. Oops, sorry. Still working on cleaning it up, cleaning the penis.
The internet. So, before you accuse someone of being a hypocrite, A, make certain that you understand the definition of hypocrisy and understand how it applies to you, and that the person that you're accusing of being a hypocrite had to have taken a position that they don't practice, which I have not done.
Yes, you did.
And 2,
your position is somehow meat is different than tobacco and alcohol. You've claimed these other things are detrimental to the world, and yet you've somehow claimed that eating meat isn't. And it's a silly, preposterous, insane, inane, nonsensical position. If you're going to treat these other vices negatively, then why don't we treat your vice negatively? Oh, that's right, because it's yours. There's no other explanation. Yay.
Before you go off on a tangent about why someone is so awful for eating meat, then I want you to get rid of all your electronics, your cell phones. I don't want you to buy any product that has been...
Well, again, it's all a matter of proportion, and it's not just about what you claim to be degrading in environmental conditions. It's about exploitation of animals quite directly. So these two things aren't exactly comparable. But again, if we're going to be fair, the whole capitalist system needs to be trashed. This whole exploitation of circumstances is unethical. But again, you're just basically saying, well, unless you fix everything, you can't fix anything. You're basically saying, don't stop the 99% offender if you're not going to stop the 1% offender. I mean, it's just not a sensible argument. Yeah, you can get rid of the worst of it, and that's improvement, and improvement's good. So yeah, you go for the worst of it first, though. You don't go for the least of it first. And you certainly don't do it based on some kind of ludicrous hypocrisy of saying this vice is no good because I don't have it, and this vice is okay because I do have it. This vice is no good because a minority does it. This vice is good because it's us, majority. I mean, that is just bigotry and nonsense.
So, an internal combustion engine taking place, you can't do that because you're being a hypocrite too, you idiot. Now, all those things I accept as part of society. I just want to see regulation and a little bit of common sense brought to the process. I know that I'm not going to get rid of it completely, though. But you can work towards an end. The trick of it is doing it intelligently, well thought out, through good policy, good intelligent conversation, and well thought out legislation. You don't get it by sitting here on the internet like it's...
Right, so well thought out legislation is just this cheap exploitation where they give huge tax cuts to the rich and they have to find somewhere else to get the money, so they just find a minority that's underrepresented because they're not segregated, so they don't have any congressmen, they don't have anybody to speak in their defense, and so they just exploit the hell out of them with taxes, and that's what you call good legislation. Right. Fuck you. I hope you get exactly what you deserve. I hope you get the country you deserve, the America you deserve, and that will be a state that just abuses the fuck out of you, and you will deserve every bit of it. You fucking useless sack of shit. I can't wait till you starve to death.
Douchebag, which is what you do, and complaining that people are being hypocrites, because that is hypocritical. If you want to change the system, you have to engage it, which you don't do, and neither do any...
Yeah, so again, this is just an insane argument, considering how many thousands of dollars I've spent, and how many lawsuits I've filed, and how many council meetings I've listened to, and how many legal papers I've read. And so, but this is, again, just make some shit up. Just say it, even though it makes absolutely no sense at all. Really. Brilliant. Fucking goddamn douchebag, dickhead, motherfucking cunt. So anyway, this will need some work, yeah. Needs some work, but we'll work on it. Let's hear the end here.
Of your buddies. All you guys do is complain and claim that the system is rigged without actually ever doing anything to try and change the system. So stop complaining to us. And before you accuse somebody of being...
I mean, really, this is just so idiotic. The whole point of the video is the fact that we're attempting to change the system by arguing in defense of the civil rights of the people you're exploiting. That's the first step to change, you idiot, is you have to make the argument. I mean, amazing hypocrisy, just amazing nonsense.
Something. First, look in the mirror, take your head out of your ass, look in the mirror, make sure you yourself are not engaged in that, and make sure that they actually took a stance on something that they clearly don't actually follow in life, which is not what happened in that video. The point was to show that Gary is a complete and total fucking nut job, and that he's a hypocrite, and doesn't give a shit about suffering, which you don't either. And that was accomplished.
No, I'm afraid it wasn't accomplished just on its face. We're not the ones saying value doesn't exist, so you already failed. You're the one saying suffering doesn't exist. It doesn't mean anything. You get to make it up.
Your video was nothing more than a tantrum, and you're too stupid to even understand that. So, next time, check the dictionary, compare, then speak, and you won't look like an idiot like you do right now. For everyone else, thank you and good night, and try not to act like Great Taicho.
Yeah, well, that's what you would want. Obviously, people with no integrity wouldn't want people acting with integrity. Yay! Oh, that was really simple. Didn't have to work too hard to figure out your incentives and motives there. So anyway, enough of a video. Moving on, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, there's no room for rational discussion here, right? I mean, really, the duplicity of the tax is obvious. The duplicity of the standards for what vice gets taxed is obvious. And now the claim is being made that if you're not Gandhi, you can't advocate for any social change. You can't advocate for any position unless you're somehow... And Gandhi wasn't even Gandhi, let's be clear on that. It's like you can't even be against war unless you're willing to be drafted or something. It just doesn't make any sense. These aren't my obligations. They just aren't. With the accusations being made. I've made the argument that you're bigots okay, that you're behaving unconstitutionally, inconsistent with constitutional principles and ideals, and that your behavior is duplicitous and hypocritical. You're not defending that. You're making some new accusation that somehow I can't make an accusation. Well, yeah, I can. I did. And you have no answer for it, because it's the truth. You're just petty bigots.